You see, most people misunderstand what truly creates impact after a breakup. They believe it's the emotional outburst, the long messages, or the desperate pleas that stir something in the other person's heart. But in reality, the most powerful moment, the one that truly causes someone to regret walking away, is silence. Not just any silence, but intentional, composed, emotionally detached silence. That's when your absence begins to speak louder than any argument, any confession, any act of desperation ever could. When you withdraw your presence completely, when you stop explaining yourself, stop reaching out, stop trying to be understood, that's when she starts to hear everything you were trying to say before. Because it's human nature to take noise for granted and to become obsessed with the things that go quiet without warning. Silence isn't emptiness, it's pressure, it's mystery, it's a mirror. And eventually she's going to look into that silence and see the reflection of everything she chose to walk away from. Think about this: every time you beg, chase, or react emotionally after a breakup, you're reinforcing the illusion that she still has power over your emotional state. And as long as she senses that, there's no reason for her to reflect, to doubt, or to feel the weight of her decision. But the moment you remove your energy, your attention, your validation, your emotional availability, that's when the power dynamic flips. Your silence becomes her loudest memory. Psychologically, this works because of something called the Zeigarnik effect. People remember unclosed loops more vividly than completed ones. When you don't give her closure, when you don't feed the drama, when you just go quiet, it leaves the story open-ended in her mind. The uncertainty drives curiosity. Curiosity triggers emotional reflection, and that reflection often leads to regret. But this isn't about playing games, it's about regaining control of your identity. Your silence should not be a tactic, it should be a reflection of genuine self-respect. You don't go quiet to manipulate her into missing you. You go quiet because you finally understand your value and you refuse to stay where you're not honored. That kind of self-awareness is magnetic. It forces people to reevaluate their decisions, because when someone sees that you didn't just disappear, you elevated, that's when the guilt sets in. That's when the doubt creeps in. And regret isn't far behind. Philosophically, silence is powerful because it represents inner mastery. A man who can sit with his pain without externalizing it is a man who owns himself. He's no longer seeking validation. He's not dependent on the opinions or emotions of others to feel whole. That is rare, and rarity always demands attention, especially from those who underestimated your strength. And here's the ironic part: when you chase, you prolong her confidence in leaving, but when you let go and grow, you create the space for her to feel what she lost. She may not say it, she may not come back, but internally a shift happens, and that shift begins with your silence. So if you're in that place right now, wondering what to say, how to act, or whether to reach out, remember this: sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is no statement at all. Your absence is not a void, it's a message. One that says, I don't need to be seen to have value. I don't need to be heard to have power. And I don't need to chase to be chosen. After the silence settles in and the emotional chaos begins to die down, there's a window, a rare opportunity. And most men waste it. They sit in pain. They scroll through old messages. They stalk her social media, wondering if she misses them. But the men who win, who truly make her regret leaving, are the ones who use that pain as fuel. They don't chase. They transform. They make the breakup a turning point, not a breakdown. And that's when she starts to notice. Growth is the most undeniable proof that you were never dependent on her love to succeed. It's the clearest message you can send without ever saying a word. When she sees you leveling up, getting in better shape, building your finances, sharpening your mindset, it forces her to reevaluate everything. Because now you're not just the man she left, you're the man she can't ignore. See, evolution is uncomfortable to watch when you were once part of the story. Psychologically, it creates what's known as cognitive dissonance. She told herself a story when she walked away, that you weren't aligned, that you weren't enough, that maybe she could do better. But now you've changed. You've improved. You've become stronger, more attractive, more grounded. That story begins to collapse under its own weight. And when her reality no longer matches her reasoning, that's when the regret starts creeping in. But again, this growth can't be a show. It can't be performative. This isn't about trying to prove her wrong. It's about proving yourself right, about becoming the kind of man you always had the potential to be with or without her. Because when your motivation stops being about her and starts being about you, the power dynamic shifts entirely. You're no longer trying to get back what you lost. You're focused on building what you never had. There's something deeply philosophical about personal evolution. The ancient Greeks called it arete, the pursuit of excellence, not for approval, but as a way of honoring your own potential. When you embody that idea, you become rare. You become disciplined. And discipline is attractive, not just romantically, but universally. People respect a man who can take pain and alchemize it into progress. She will respect it too, even if she won't admit it. Let me give you a deeper truth. Women don't miss who you were. They miss who you became when they're no longer a part of your world. It's when they see you shining in silence, moving with purpose, becoming a man other women admire. That's when regret becomes real. Not because you posted about it, not because you rubbed it in her face, but because you evolved in private and now the results are impossible to ignore. And that's not just the gym or the money. It sets your aura, your composure, your sense of direction. The way you walk into a room without needing to be noticed. That unshakable calm that says, I been through the fire and I didn't just survive, I upgraded. So don't waste your time explaining yourself. Don't try to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it before. Build in silence. Rise with intention. Because one day when she's scrolling through her feed or hearing about you through mutual friends, that evolution will hit her harder than any words you could have said. And in that moment, the image she remembers won't match the man you've become. Here's a truth most men struggle to accept. Your reaction after the breakup often defines whether she ever regrets her decision. And the problem is, too many men give in to the impulse. They lash out, they text paragraphs, they argue, explain, plead, all in the name of closure. But let me tell you this clearly, no reaction is the best reaction. The moment you show you're unaffected, whether you truly are or not, is the moment the psychological game begins to shift in your favor. It's not coldness, it's control. Emotional control. In psychology, this is rooted in the concept of intermittent reinforcement, the idea that unpredictable behavior creates the strongest emotional bonds. When you react exactly the way she expects, hurt, angry, needy, there's no shift in her emotional state. You've confirmed her belief that walking away was the right decision. You've shown you still care more than she does. But when you don't react, when you simply walk away with grace, dignity, and silence, it disrupts her expectations entirely. Think about it from a philosophical lens. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, believed the highest form of strength wasn't physical dominance, but the ability to control your emotions under pressure, to not be shaken by events outside your control. And what's more outside your control than someone else's decision to leave? If you can face that moment with stillness, you've already elevated yourself above the emotional chaos most men drown in. When you stop reacting, you stop bleeding value. Your reaction gives her feedback. If she sees you spiraling, it tells her she still holds power. She can walk away, and you'll still be orbiting her emotional world. That's not attractive. It's confirming. But when she walks away and you don't even flinch, a seed of doubt begins to grow in her mind. Why didn't he fight for me? Why is he so calm? Did he already move on? Was I not as important as I thought? That confusion is the beginning of reflection, and reflection is the birthplace of regret. Now, some men think no reaction means pretending to not care while secretly hoping she notices. That's not mastery. That's just silent desperation. True emotional control comes from understanding your worth and walking away not out of strategy, but out of self-respect. You don't need to prove a point when your life already speaks volumes. You have to become a man who doesn't need validation through conflict. A man who doesn't chase closure because he is the closure. When she ends it and you disappear without theatrics, you become a mystery, and people regret mysteries they never get to solve. And remember this, anyone who truly respected you wouldn't leave in the first place hoping to provoke a reaction. So your silence isn't a punishment, it's a mirror. You're showing her exactly who she was in your life and exactly who you're becoming without her. The moment you master your reaction is the moment you stop being reactive and start being intentional, and intention is power. So next time someone walks away and everything in you wants to scream, explain, or fight for clarity, don't. Let your stillness speak. Let your lack of reaction become your loudest reply, because the man who doesn't need to respond is the man she'll replay in her mind long after you're gone. There's a particular moment after a breakup that changes everything. It's subtle. It's not when she blocks you. It's not when she posts a story to make you jealous. It's not even when she says she's moved on. It's when she notices other women are now drawn to you, the same you she once had full access to. That's when her perception begins to shift and regret starts to grow in the background. You see, attention is currency in today's world. But post-breakup, it's not your attention that matters. It's who is giving you attention now. The moment she sees that what she took for granted is now being valued by other women, her mind begins to work against her. It's not necessarily about love, it's about loss. And more importantly, it's about replaced significance. Because in her mind, she was the one who had you when your value was unseen. So when others now begin to see what she ignored, it rewrites the narrative she told herself. Psychologically, this taps into something very real, social proof. Humans are wired to desire what others desire. It's the same reason a restaurant with a line outside feels more trustworthy than an empty one. We assume value based on demand. And in relationships, it's no different. When she sees women appreciating your mind, your energy, your presence, even in the smallest ways, her brain registers something primal. Did I misjudge his worth? But here's the key. It can't be staged. Women are highly intuitive. If you're posting with other women to get a reaction, it backfires. Because desperation, even when disguised as confidence, is still desperation. The growth that attracts new attention has to be authentic. It has to be earned. Your presence has to radiate something that's bigger than validation. It has to radiate progress. And the irony is, most women don't regret leaving a man until they see what he becomes in the aftermath. Not just how he heals, but who he attracts. When she sees women laughing around you, engaging with you, admiring you, it shakes the belief that walking away was a smart choice. Because now she's not looking at the past version of you, she's witnessing a man who evolved without her. A man other women now respect, admire, and even want. From a philosophical angle, this realization strikes at the ego. We all want to believe we made the right choice, but when reality starts to contradict that belief, the ego resists. And in relationships, regret is often ego-driven. Not because the person was perfect, but because the idea that they could be desired after we left feels like a threat to our self-image. She doesn't just mourn losing you, she mourns the control, the exclusivity, the status that came with being close to you. That's why your transformation must extend beyond words and social media. It has to be felt in your demeanor, in your silence, in how you carry yourself. When your presence is felt by others and your energy is no longer available for her, that's when the regret starts to take root, not instantly, but deeply. So if you're wondering whether she'll ever regret losing you, stop watching her story and start writing your own. Make your life so full, so attractive, so purpose-driven that it demands attention even from those who once overlooked it. Let her see what it looks like when the man she left becomes the man others now pray for. The turning point in any breakup, the moment that separates the weak from the wise, is when a man stops asking, "How do I get her back?" and starts asking, "How do I get myself back?" Because the truth is, the moment you choose your self-worth over sentiment is the moment her illusion of control begins to crumble. That's when she starts to regret not just the breakup, but the realization that she was never your foundation to begin with. Here's what most men get wrong. They confuse love with dependency. They think loyalty means sacrificing their own needs, values, and growth to keep someone happy. But when you do that, you send a silent message that your identity revolves around her approval. That's not love. That's submission. And the harsh reality, the moment a woman senses that you've placed her above your own self-respect, she starts to lose respect for you. Not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Because no one is drawn to someone who's abandoned himself. Now, when you finally step back and say, I will not chase, I will not beg, I will not shrink to be accepted, everything shifts. That decision carries weight. It's no longer about proving something to her, it's about reclaiming your center. Psychologically, it's called individuation, the process of becoming a fully realized individual, separate from dependency, separate from emotional neediness, and in that process, you stop operating from fear and start operating from power. You see, regret doesn't come from losing someone who's desperate. It comes from losing someone who had the strength to walk away with dignity, someone who loved without losing himself, someone who valued connection but not at the expense of self-respect. And when she sees that you didn't wait for her to come back, that you used the pain as a lesson and elevated instead, that's when regret kicks in. Not because she misses the old you, but because she never imagined you'd grow in her absence. Philosophically, this goes deeper than just relationships. It's about identity. In every loss, there's a chance to meet the version of yourself you were too distracted to become. Sometimes heartbreak isn't a punishment, it's a portal. And when you walk through that portal with discipline, reflection, and purpose, you realize you never lost her. You found you. The world respects a man who chooses integrity over impulse, a man who doesn't abandon himself to be chosen, and the moment you internalize that, something powerful happens. You stop performing for love and you start radiating value. You stop being emotionally available to someone who disrespected your presence. That energy is rare, and the rarer you become, the more value others assign to you, including her. She'll start to question herself. Why isn't he trying to fix this? Did he not love me as much as I thought? Or has he finally realized what he deserves? And that's not a question she can silence easily, because deep down she knows you did love her, but you loved yourself more. And that is what stays with her. So if you're standing at the edge of heartbreak right now, don't collapse. Don't fold. Don't compromise your worth for the illusion of comfort. Rise into your own standard. Define yourself by how you carry pain, not how you avoid it. Because a man who chooses himself in the midst of emotional chaos is a man the world can't ignore, and a man a woman will never truly forget. There's a moment she never expects, a moment more powerful than any text, more piercing than any long message or emotional plea. It's the moment she sees you genuinely smiling again, but not because of her. The moment she sees your energy lifted, your presence focused, your life in motion, and not in spite of the breakup, but because of it. That's when the regret really starts to sink in, quietly, privately, sometimes even painfully. You have to understand something very simple but often forgotten. People don't feel regret when they think you're still hurting. They feel pity, they feel guilt maybe, but not regret. Regret only comes when they realize that not only did you survive the loss, they weren't necessary for your happiness at all. That realization is humbling, and in many cases haunting, because in her mind you were supposed to fall apart. Maybe not forever, but at least long enough to confirm she meant more than she did. That's the silent expectation most people carry when they leave. They want space, but they want to matter. They want you to move on, but only after they've stopped looking. But when you don't follow that script, when you heal faster, evolve deeper, and shine brighter, what she once took for granted suddenly feels very distant and very valuable. There's deep psychological significance to this. One of the strongest motivators for human behavior is loss aversion, We feel the pain of losing something far more intensely than the joy of gaining something new. So when she sees you happy, truly happy without her, her brain begins processing that loss as something more permanent. And it's not just the loss of you, it's the loss of a version of herself that existed when she was with you. That's the part she can't get back. That's the part that creates the ache. But here's the key. Your happiness has to be authentic. Real peace can't be faked. You can't post photos pretending to be happy while living in emotional chaos behind the screen. That's not growth. That's performance. And women can sense the difference. She's not going to regret leaving if all you're doing is showing off. But if your smile is effortless, your demeanor calm, your path purposeful, that hits different. That tells her something's changed. Not on the surface, but at the core. From a philosophical perspective, this is the idea of transcendence. You don't just recover, you rise above. You take the pain and you transmute it into wisdom, power, and a new sense of self. And what's more attractive than a man who didn't let heartbreak define him? A man who didn't retreat into bitterness or chaos, but who found clarity, peace, and purpose on the other side. That's the man she starts to miss, not because she needs him back, but because she finally realizes what he became when she walked away. And the irony is, you don't even have to say a word. You don't have to prove anything. Your life, your energy, your smile, they say it all. That sets the beauty of true transformation. It doesn't beg to be seen. It forces people to look back and ask themselves, what did I let go of? So when the pain hits, and the temptation to chase, explain, or react starts bubbling up, remember this: there's power in becoming someone she never imagined you could be without her. That's how you win, not by taking her back, not by proving a point, but by living a life that makes her question everything.